G'day guys and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to talk about me shooting an absolute stonker of a red deer and a cautionary tale of why you should clean your guns. So since moving up to Queensland I haven't really had the opportunity to go hunting, and that's why there's been no hunting videos on the channel in quite some time. I did however get access to a property up in the Sunshine Coast hinterland where the owner said he had a couple of absolute stonker red stags and that he was happy if I went and hunted them. We did a few trips actually, just the first one was kind of just getting the lay of the land of the property, and then we did subsequent trips to try and find these deer. So this property is quite big and it has a lot of very, very steep hills in it. So you have some steep hills that have a bit of open ground on them that sometimes the deer are seen on. There's a lot of re-entrance, there's a lot of really, really thick jungle creek lines. It was actually very, very hard to try and find these deer. Now on one of the trips out there, I did manage to stalk through the creek line and I could smell the deer, so they'd been in the area just before that. As I stopped for about, 5 minutes to kind of look around, the deer ended up running away on the far side of the creek, so they were probably 30 odd meters away. Another time we went up there, we decided, stalking through the jungle wasn't really the best option. Maybe we should sit and glass onto the opposing face and see if they pop out to feed at any point. So that was another really long day of just glassing. So there'd been a lot of work going to try and find those red deer. Now on the fourth trip we went out there, and then fairly early in the morning we found them feeding. Now in this area they were feeding in, it was a small-ish patch of grass surrounded by heavy wooded area. At the downhill end of this open patch was a very thick creek line, so we kind of knew that if they had have got into that creek line we would have lost them again. So we decided that they were both out in the open, they were both feeding, we would shoot both of them at the same time. So we got into position, and this is where, a drama arose. Now, as I have lined up on my deer, he's lined up on his deer, I was ready to shoot, so I'd already loaded my gun. So as I'm lined up on my deer, he then decides to load his gun, and he can't close the bolt. So there's a bit of faffing around, he's trying to figure out what the fuck is going on with his gun. The deer continue to walk, and they're now getting closer and closer to the edge of this tree line. He's now getting really frustrated. We were about to lose our opportunity to shoot these deer. It's a long trip to get out there, and this is the fourth time we've been there, so we've got a lot invested into this. This kind of needs to happen. So he eventually figures out that he has a grass seed stuck under the extractor on his bolt. Now he's using a Sauer 202, and this is the same rifle that he had taken out every single time he's out there hunting. He takes the bolt out of his gun, he unloads his gun, he puts it in his bag, it goes straight in the safe, it comes straight back out of the safe, goes back in his bag and comes back out hunting. At no point in between each of these trips had he cleaned his gun. Somehow, probably while we're on the buggy or something, somehow a grass seed has got into his rifle and got under his extractor. So he used a knife and he managed to get that out, reloaded his gun, he's lined up, and then we've done the 1, 2, 3. Now at this point they're very close to this creek line. I decided I don't want my deer running, so I'm going to shoulder shoot it, which is kind of a go-to for when I shoot deer. I usually tend to shoot the first shot into the shoulder just so they can't run very far. Now I was using my 7 Rem mag, smacked it right in the shoulder just above the joint of the shoulder blade to the next leg bone. It ran probably 25-30 meters, started to slow down. It was quite close, or getting close-ish to that tree line. I knew now that it wasn't going to run in the tree line because I'd broken its shoulder, and it started to slow down, so I decided I'm not going to allow this deer to suffer anymore. So I shot another round, which clipped the very top of its heart and put it down immediately. My mate did the same thing. He shot, his first one was a lung shot. His one bolted a hell of a lot further than mine and was very, very close to the tree line. He fired another one high spine to stop it, and then he had to go and give it the coup de grace at the end to make sure it was properly dead. Now, these deer were absolute stonkers. They were measured up using the SCI scale. So I don't have a Douglas score for these, but I do have an SCI score, and mine scored 263 on the SCI scale. For an Australian deer is absolutely ridiculous, because Australian red deer tend to have smaller heads on them. So we butchered up those deer, then they ended up going back into my freezer. A little bit of meat got shed around, most of it, that wasn't the good edible portions got put into my freezer as dog food, and my dogs are pretty happy about that. They couldn't go on that hunt because the property we were hunting on was a no dogs property, just due to some of the other animals in the area, livestock, etc. So they were a little bit disappointed, but they still got some deer meat, so they were quite happy in the end. And now the final point I'll talk about with this hunt is I used my 7 Rem Mag. Now this has been a go-to deer hunting gun for me for as long as I've owned it. What I do want to touch on though is the ELDX bullets. Once again, kind of failing to perform. Now I said this in when I did my Samba testing videos, and I'll say it again, ELDXs are not a good option for a close range hunt. Now with the 7 Rem Mag, I'm still playing with a couple of loads. I do have a load with 139 grain GMX copper monolithic bullets, but where this open ground was that we were going to be glassing, it's about 400 meters away. So I didn't really want to be using a copper out that far, particularly when I haven't tested it before on a deer of this size. I just decided, hey, look, I'm going to go with something that I know is kind of good at that range, which is the ELDX, and I had some factory ammunition for it. Now, I ended up shooting this deer at 60 meters. Obviously, the bullets at that range, going the speed they're going, which is about 2850 off the top of my head, it de-jacketed the bullet. Yeah, there's not much left of that bullet. As per all of the other testing I've ever done with ELDXs, at that range, at that velocity, they just do not hold together. It's a fantastic bullet for longer ranges. Anything under about 150 out of my gun, the velocities it's going, I just feel like it's too much for that bullet and they come apart. So I have a couple of guns that I like shooting ELDXs out of, which is my 7 Rem Mag, but also my 6.5 Creedmoor. So this has led me down the rabbit hole of doing what I've been wanting to do for a while, which is testing different bullets. So I have some Sierra Game Changers in both 7mm and 6.5mm, so I'm going to be doing some loads up for both of those guns and see how we can go with that. So that'll probably be popping up on the channel at some point. Now obviously I did fire 2 shots and I only recovered 1 bullet. The bullet I recovered, I believe, is the second shot, and it was on the far side of the animal. The first shot, I couldn't find anything. There was tiny fragments of jacket and lead throughout the deer, and I believe that because I did do a shoulder shot, that bullet completely disintegrated, and that's why I couldn't find it, because I was in the animal carcass for a good hour or so just trying to find projectiles and couldn't find anything. Now my mate, when he shot his deer, was using Barnes TTSXs in his 30-06, and he recovered 1 of the 3 bullets he fired, and I believe that was second shot to try and stop it, went through the spine, and he found it in the skin on the front of the brisket, because it was angling away from him. So it's gone through a lot of animal to get there, which is a testament to copper monolithic bullets at close range. They are absolutely fantastic. Had I known that I'd be shooting at 60 meters, I would have used my 139 grain GMX load. However, I thought I was shooting for 500 meters, so that's why I opted for the Cup and Core ELDX, but it is what it is. So I hope you got something out of that. Hope that was a fun video for you. It's kind of something different. I'll catch you next video, and hooroo.